The British government is reversing its decision to allow Chinese telecom giant Huawei to have a role in the UK's 5G infrastructure. Roxana Saberi is in London, and she is following today's announcement for us. So, Roxana, good to see you. Let's start with what this actually means for the UK. What role does Huawei play in the country's 5G network, and what changes will companies have to make in light of the announcement?
It's good to see you too, Vlad. Britain's government says from January 1st, telecom companies here in the UK will be barred from buying new 5G equipment from Huawei. And Huawei equipment already installed must be removed from the country's high-speed wireless network by 2027. Now, this is a U-turn for the British government. Earlier this year, it had agreed to give the Chinese firm a limited role in the network, but it banned Huawei from supplying the network's, quote, sensitive parts and limited it to a 35% market share of other parts. Telecom companies here in the UK had warned that if they were forced to remove Huawei equipment too fast, the country could see cell phone coverage blackouts and it would take longer to connect the UK to 5G. Today's decision is expected to delay the rollout of 5G in the UK by 1 to 3 years, and it could cost billions of dollars. But critics are likely to remain unhappy with the move, saying 7 years is too long to phase out Huawei from the network. Vlad and Anne-Marie?
Yeah, as I understand it, part of the reason why Huawei equipment has been used, and it's used here in the U.S. as well, is because it's a lot cheaper than the competitors. But the Trump administration has been trying to place restrictions on what Huawei equipment can be used for here and putting pressure on other countries. Was there pressure put on the UK to make this decision from the U.S.?
There was pressure, and it's possible that it played a big role. The Trump administration has been pushing authorities here to cut ties with Huawei, even threatening to cut back security cooperation with the UK. The U.S. has voiced concerns that Huawei equipment would allow the Chinese government to spy on countries like the UK, but Britain insisted it had security measures in place to make sure all Huawei equipment would be reviewed before being used in its communications networks. But in May, the U.S. imposed new sanctions that would bar companies around the world from using U.S.-made machinery or software to produce chips for Huawei. That complicated matters for the UK. The British government's about-face today is a big victory for the Trump administration. Vlad and Anne-Marie?
So, Roxana, how are Huawei and China responding to today's announcement, and what will it mean for the UK-China relationship going forward?
Well, Huawei has described the announcement as a disappointment, and the spokesman calls it bad news for anyone in the UK with a mobile phone. He also said the move threatens to take Britain into the, quote, digital slow lane. The UK now risks retaliation from China, one of its biggest trading partners. Tensions have been rising between the two countries. Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson and several members of his own party have criticized Beijing over a new national security law it's imposing in Hong Kong. Johnson has offered a path to citizenship for around 3 million Hong Kong residents.
So here's the thing. There are other European countries that use Huawei equipment in the development of their 5G infrastructure. Is the fact that the UK is sort of pulling Huawei out, is that going to have an impact?
It is likely to put pressure on other countries, especially on Germany. And Chancellor Angela Merkel is being urged to keep Huawei out of the country's new 5G network. And U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien is in Paris for 3 days of talks with counterparts from Germany, France, Italy, and Britain. The Trump administration has made clear that 5G networks are on the agenda. Vlad and Anne-Marie?
Roxana, thank you so much.